Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes. Hare Krishna, good morning to everyone. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam and we're reading from Canto number 2, chapter number 22, entitled The Lord in the Heart. And today we're reading from text number 11. Vibhushitam me khalaya, Vibhushitam me khalaya nugilaya ker. 1 second, let me just get this right. Vibhushitam me kalayangila ker. It's gonna work. Mahadhanir nupura kankana dibi snigdhamala kunchitanila kuntaler Virochamana nana hasapeshalam Vibhushitam me kalayan guliyaker Mahadhanir nupura kankana dibi Snigdhamala kunchitanila kuntale Virochamana nanahasa peshalam Vibhushitam me kalayan guliyaker Mahadhanir nupura kankana dibi Snigdhamala kunchitanila kuntale Virochamana nanahasa peshalam Yanguloinaker
Vibhushitam me kalayanguliyake Vibhushitam me kalayanguliyake Mahadhanir nupura kankana dibi Snigdhamala kunchitanila kuntale Virochamana nahasa peshalam
Ladies?
Vibhushitam me khalaya gulike
Vibhushitam me kalayan Nupura Kankanadibi Snigdhamala Kunchita Nila Kuntale Vibhushitam, well decorated. Mekalaya, with an ornamental wreath around the waist. Anguliyake, by finger rings. Mahadhane, all highly valuable. Nupura, ringing leglets. Kankana Dibi, also by bangles. Snigdha, slick. Amala, spotless. Akunchita, curling. Nila, bluish. Kuntale, hair. Virochamana, very pleasing. Anana, face. Hasa, smile. Peshalam, beautiful. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. So here Sukadev Goswami is talking about Krishna who is within the heart. So you can just imagine this Krishna who is being described is actually residing with you. He's with you at all times. He's in your heart. You can look down, maybe you'll see. This Krishna, he is well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair, curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most beautiful person amongst all others. And Srila Sukadev Goswami describes every part of his transcendental beauty, one after another, in order to teach the impersonalist that the personality of Godhead is not an imagination by the devotee for facility of worship, but it is the Supreme Person in fact and figure. The impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth is but his radiation, as the sun rays are but radiations from the sun. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Mama Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. So this is very, very beautiful. Krishna is with us all times, places and circumstances because Krishna is seated within our hearts. The pure devotees, by their eyes of love, they can actually perceive that Krishna is within the heart. Therefore, the super soul is not just a concept. The devotees know that yes, Krishna is there. Krishna is with me. Krishna is with all living beings. Once a reporter, he asked Srila Prabhupada, where do you get your money from? It's a good question to ask a saintly person. Perfect questions, perfect answers, maybe not perfect questions. But he said, where do you get your money from? So Prabhupada said, we get our money from Krishna. He said, yeah, I know all about the Krishna thing and all that, but where do you practically get the money from? I said, no, we get it from Krishna. He said, yeah, I understand. I'm not asking a theological question here. I want to know practically, how do you make your money? And then Prabhupada looked at him and he said, Krishna is in your heart. And if we tell Krishna to tell you to give the Swami $5,000, you will have to give. The guy got a bit scared. He goes, okay, thank you, I don't know. So the devotee, he's actually communicating with Paramatma. You can actually communicate with Paramatma. Krishna is in your heart. But there's one qualification you have to have in order to hear Krishna within the heart and speak to Krishna within the heart. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, there's one qualification. And if you've done this one thing, you'll be able to hear Krishna within your heart and you'll be able to speak to Krishna within your heart. Does anyone know what that one qualification is? Krishna says in one verse.
9.1, non-envious.
Okay, that's good. Humility, okay. Are you going to say qualities now? Many qualities? Krishna says in one verse what the qualification is to make contact with the Paramatma. Krishna says, Jitatmana prashantasya Paramatma samahita. Krishna says, for one who has conquered the mind. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. So that's amazing to think that if you actually conquer your mind, you can speak to the super soul. Like another time a reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, how do you pick the leaders in your movement? So Prabhupada looked at the reporter and said, Krishna tells me. So again, it was a very transcendental answer. So Rameshwar Prabhu, he was next to Prabhupada, so he wanted to make it a little more understandable for the reporter. So he said, no, what he means is that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what are the qualifications of a leader, and then according to all the qualifications, the Swami picks the leaders, and Prabhupada looks at him and says, he said, no, Krishna tells me directly. Dadami buddhi. Krishna says, I give the intelligence. So this is amazing. You can actually talk to the super soul, Krishna, who is within the heart. And Krishna doesn't just talk to you, but what Krishna does is he captures your imagination. Because here what's being described by Sukadev Goswami is that Krishna is the most beautiful. Nothing in the world can compare to Krishna's beauty. The beauty of this world is very transitory. In 1958, Srila Prabhupada wrote an article in Back to Godhead called Truth and Beauty. And in that article, he told the story of liquid beauty. Do you want me to tell you the story of liquid beauty? It goes with a bit of a rating, It's maybe at this time in the morning it's a heavy story, but a very instructive story. Because once there was a very handsome man and he became attracted to this lady. So the lady was very, very beautiful. So he began to glorify her with all the romantic words under the sun, and asked her, please let us be together. So the lady was not only very, very beautiful, but she was also very, very wise. She was very, very saintly. And so she wanted to teach him a lesson about beauty. And so she said, yes, yes, we are made for each other. But please come back after 1 week. You know, sometimes if you really want to relish a meal, you have to more hunger. So she said, just 1 week, come back, and then we will be in a position to come together. So difficult as it was, he accepted the proposal. I'll come back in 1 week to be with her. So as he went away, what she began doing for the coming days was she took a very harsh course of action. Srila Prabhupada explains that she began to take laxatives. I understand, laxatives, purgatives. What the effect of that is that everything begins passing through your body. It comes in and it goes out, and it comes in and it goes out. And so she began taking laxatives, and everything was passing through her body. Meanwhile, the man was there, looking at the calendar, counting down the days. Finally, after it came to day 0, no more days left, then he went to the home and then he knocked on the door. And this lady opened the door. She was emaciated. She was weak. She kind of had lost all of her luster. It just almost looked very aged. So he said, I'm looking for so-and-so. Do you know where she is? She said, that's me. He said, no, it can't be you. She said, yes, it's me. He said, but 1 week ago you were so beautiful. You had so much luster, you had so much health, you were looking beautiful in all respects. She said, yes, I am that same person, but I have separated my beauty. So he said, where is the beauty? I want to find the beauty. So she said, do you really want to see what has separated to make me like this, where my beauty has gone? He said, yes, that was what I was waiting for all these 7 days. And over the week, she had saved everything. And so she happily led him to that place and said, this is the difference. This is what has been separated. This is my beauty. And he began to realize, oh my God, beauty is very liquid. Beauty is very transitory. Beauty is, what is beauty actually? So this, Prabhupada told this story. We're attracted so much. You know, like you're attracted, this is the idea of Sankhya philosophy. Understand Sankhya? Sankhya means analysis. So it means to break everything down. So say for example, if you see a cake in the shop, and it looks very nice, no? Like you just see it, your eyes become attracted. But then imagine we took all of the ingredients of that cake and said, here is a sack of flour, here is a glass of sugar, here is, some other ingredients, some raw nuts. Then once you break it down into its ingredients, it doesn't really hold its attraction anymore. And so the idea of Sankhya philosophy is to break the material world down and to actually see what it's made of. And when you see what it's made of, then it doesn't attract you anymore. But we're just attracted by the combination that comes together and then is presented in a certain way. So, what is the vision of a devotee when a devotee sees beauty in the world? It's said that the karmi or the materialist, when they see beauty in the world, they try to enjoy it. The jnani the one who's trying to become detached, the one who has this vision of Sankhya, when they see beauty in the world, they become disgusted by it. They walk away from it. They deny it. But the devotee, when they see beauty, they don't try to enjoy it. They don't even try to escape it or run away from it. But what they do is they utilize that beauty to help them appreciate how beautiful the person who was behind it must be. And therefore a devotee, when they see the beauty of this world, they don't have to deny it, neither do they have to try to enjoy it. But what they do by seeing that beauty is it helps them to see the beauty of Krishna. Like one time Prabhupada was in an airport with a brahmachari, and an air hostess walked past, and Prabhupada looked at the brahmachari and said, "Beautiful, isn't she?" So imagine, if your spiritual master's there and a beautiful lady, and your brahmachari. Prabhupada said, "Beautiful, isn't she?" So he was bewildered, like, is it a test? Maybe he's testing me if I have attraction, or at the same time, I don't want to disagree because he's saying she is beautiful. So like, what do I do here? Like, it's a little bit of a catch-22. So he was baffled. And so Prabhupada decided to help him out. He said, she's beautiful. But if she's that beautiful, imagine how beautiful Krishna is who created her. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam shrimad urjitameva va tad tadeva vagachatvam mamate jom sasambhavam. Krishna says in the 10th chapter of the Gita, whatever beautiful things you see in the world, mamate jom sasambhavam, is just a spark of my splendor. So when you see the beautiful sunrise, you remember the beauty of Krishna. When you see a beautiful person, remember the beauty of Krishna. When you see someone who has a beautiful ability, remember it all comes from Krishna. So the beauty of this world helps us to see the beauty of Krishna. But then ultimately what the scriptures help us to understand is how directly beautiful Krishna is. So here that is being described. One can just meditate on Krishna, on all the different parts of his body. And by meditating on Krishna, one's mind actually becomes purified. There's a very beautiful verse in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam. Hasam hare ravanata akila lokativra sokashru sagara vishoshana matyudaram sammohanaya rachitum nijamaya yasya Bhrumandalam Munikrite Makaradvajasya. Here's a tip for you. When you take darshan of Krishna, there are two very, very powerful aspects when you take darshan of Krishna. One is Krishna's smile, and the other one is Krishna's eyebrows. One goes like this, and the other one goes like this. So what this verse of the Bhagavatam says is that when you go in front of a picture or a deity, or when you go in front of Krishna and you meditate on Krishna's smile, Hasam Harer Avanata, then it said by meditating on the smile of Krishna, Saukashru Sagara, the ocean of tears which we have shed over lifetimes for so many material things, by meditating on the smile of Krishna, it dries up the Saukashru Sagara, the ocean of tears that we've shed for so many material things. Oh, he left me. Oh, she left me. Oh, Krishna lost the World Cup. It's not Krishna lost it. India lost the World Cup. So many things we cry for. So it said that when you meditate on the smile of Krishna, then the ocean of tears dry up. And then it said that when you meditate on the eyebrows of Krishna, then the eyebrows of Krishna are like an archer's bow. And normally we're being hit by the bows of Cupid, isn't it? And so much attraction towards so many things of the world and people of the world. So it said that when you meditate on Krishna's eyebrows, then instead of being attracted and attacked by the lust of Cupid's arrows, you instead become conquered by the arrows which come from Krishna's bow-like eyebrows. And Krishna therefore conquers all of your lust. And then the beauty of this world, the beauty of the opposite gender no longer has any attraction for you. So there's a beautiful prayer that Rupa Goswami says, if you are at all interested in family, love, friendship and society, don't go to Keshi Ghat. Don't go to Vrindavan. Don't go to this place on the banks of the Yamuna. Govindakyam haritinam iti Keshi tirtho pakante. Because on the banks of the Yamuna at the Keshi Ghat, there's one boy, his name is Krishna, Govinda, specifically Govinda. And if his eyes meet your eyes, then maybe you will just forget about all the beauty of this world. You lose all your interest in family, friendship, love and society. None of it will attract you anymore. I'll tell you an amazing story actually. Once I was on doing a marathon book distribution in Paris. So one day I was standing in Paris and I was holding a Bhagavad Gita, and one boy came up to me and said, "Is that Krishna?" I said, "Yeah." So he was from a Muslim background. I think his name was Abdul. So I said, "How do you know Krishna?" He said, "I was traveling in India and now I can't forget Krishna." I said, "Wow, like where did you come across Krishna?" He said, "I was traveling in India for 2 months." And he said, "I went to one temple. And ever since going to that temple, I can't get Krishna out of my mind." So I said, "Wow, like which temple did you go to?" So he said, No, you won't know that temple. I don't think it's so famous." So I said, "No, well, maybe I know." He said, "I went to a temple in Rajasthan." So I said, "Okay. I mean, I've been to some temples in Rajasthan. Which place?" He said, "I went to Jaipur." I said, "Oh, Jaipur? That's a very famous city, the pink city." He said, "Yeah, you know it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Which temple did you go into in Jaipur?" He said, "I don't, you really know it? It's a temple called Govinda." So he had gone to Govindaji temple. Have you been in Vrindavan, in Jaipur? There in Jaipur, Govindaji is the center of the whole city. Even the king, Jai Singh, he made his palace adjacent to the temple of Govindaji, and he arranged the architecture and the way the palace was built in such a way that when he would open his curtains, he would be able to have a direct darshan of Govindaji. So Govindaji is said to have the same smiling face as Krishna. Because when Krishna left the world and Vajranab wanted to re-establish Vrindavan, then Sandilya Rishi told him, "Make deities of Krishna." But at that time, no one had seen Krishna except one person, Uttara. And therefore, Vajranab had Vishvakarma make different deities of Krishna. So the first deity that Vishvakarma made was the deity of Madan Mohan. And when Uttara saw Madan Mohan, she said, "It looks exactly like Krishna," from the waist down. She said, "Oh, okay, let's try." So then he made another deity. And the second deity was Gopinath. So he brought it to Uttara. He said, "It looks exactly like Krishna," from the waist to the neck. Because, okay, wow, we're getting there slowly. And then the third deity that Vishvakarma made was Govindaji. And when Uttara saw Govindaji, she said, "This looks exactly like Krishna." His smiling face, exactly like Krishna. So now, according to Vrindavan legend, if you want to have the full darshan of Krishna, then you have to see Madan Mohan, Gopinath and Govindaji all in one day. So Madan Mohan is in a place called Karali, and Govindaji and Gopinath are in Jaipur. So it was interesting. He saw Govindaji and he said, I can't get Krishna out of my mind. I thought, wow, he's confirming the verse of Rupa Goswami. So Krishna is very, very beautiful. Krishna will capture your mind. One of Krishna's names is Manohara, one who steals away your mind. But one may say, why is it that I'm not attracted to Krishna? I hear all this, Krishna has curly blue hair, Krishna has these eyebrows which are very, very beautiful. His eyes are like lotus flowers. His smile will dry up all of my tears. He's in a threefold bending form. He's wearing a yellow dhoti. He has this Vaijayanti garland which goes down to his legs. He's wearing all these jewels. Even Krishna, when he sees his own beauty, he said that once Krishna was in Dwarka and on the jeweled floor, he saw his own reflection. And when he saw his own reflection, he thought, wow. I mean, that sounds a little, like if we would be like that, it's like, that's a bit proud. But even Krishna, who knows everything, becomes amazed by his own beauty. So Krishna's beauty is amazing. It said that Uddhav was with Krishna his whole life. And one time, Uddhav, who was completely, there was nothing else on his mind except Krishna. And then once he saw a lady and he became attracted. So Uddhav got completely bewildered because he thought, I only have attraction for Krishna. I don't have attraction for anyone else. How is it that I could be attracted to this lady? So he was completely bewildered. And then after thinking about it, he thought there's only one explanation. There can only be one explanation why I'm attracted to this lady. And what is that? She must be Krishna. Otherwise I can't figure this out. How could I be attracted to anyone? And sure enough, the Nectar of Devotion says it was Krishna that day who was testing Uddhav to see. So, but we may say, I'm seeing Krishna. Why is it that we don't feel the movement of heart? Yes, we look at a picture of Krishna. Some pictures of Krishna we can connect to more than other pictures of Krishna. But even the pictures of Krishna that we can connect to, it doesn't steal our heart in the same way. So one may question, why is it that when we see Krishna's beauty, we don't, our heart is not captured? So I'll give you 4 points that I thought of. Why it is that when we see Krishna's beauty, we still don't feel attracted. And then you can tell me whether there's any more that I missed out. The first reason why when we see Krishna, we don't really perceive Krishna's beauty is perhaps the most basic and the most formidable, which is that we're covered by Maya. When we're covered by Maya, Maya means that which is not. And so Maya means you begin to see everything in the opposite way. Maya means you begin to see everything upside down. Maya means that which has no substance we're attracted to, and that which has substance doesn't move our heart in any way. Maya means that we're so much covered by passion and ignorance that our consciousness is not open enough to perceive the beauty of Krishna. So Prabhupada says our inclination is in the wrong way. You understand? Like inclination means how, for example, you have a road and it's inclined in a certain way. So if something is inclined in a certain way, say you drop water on it, then it will always go in one direction. So right now, because our inclination is that we're covered by passion and ignorance, whenever we see things in the world, we naturally gravitate towards material things because we're covered by passion and ignorance. But when we change our modes and we become inclined towards sattva and then towards transcendence, then naturally that attraction for Krishna will come about. So the most basic reason why we don't get attracted to Krishna is because we're covered by Maya, because we allow ourselves to be clouded by the material energy, and we perform activities which root us more and more in Maya. We cultivate habits, we cultivate lifestyles, which mean that there's a thicker and thicker covering that stops us from the natural attraction towards Krishna. So the first reason why we don't get attracted by Krishna is because we're covered by Maya. The second reason why we don't get attracted by Krishna, even though his form is so beautiful, is because we're deviated by distraction. It's said that if we were able to actually focus on Krishna's form, if we were actually able to be attentive, then what would happen is from that attention, the attraction would come about. And when that attraction would mature, it would become attachment. But right now, we're distracted and we're focusing on so many other objects of beauty, other objects of enjoyment, other objects of concern. And therefore Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsha Sangastesu Bhajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodho Vijayate Krodho Bhavati Sammoha Sammoha Smriti Vibrama Smriti Brahmshad Buddhi Nasho Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. This is the ultimate psychology. Krishna explains how we basically get into trouble in the world. Krishna says the first thing is dhyayato. You begin to meditate on material things. Now, as you begin to focus more on material things, sangha, then you develop attachment for material things. Sangat sanjayate kama. And when you develop attachment for something, the next thing is your heart becomes hijacked by lust. Then, when you have lust, from lust, kama krodho, comes anger. Why does anger come from lust? Because number one, if you fulfill your lust, then you realize your lust doesn't really satisfy you, therefore you become angry. And if you can't satisfy your lust, then you get frustrated, you become angry. So either way, when you have lust, eventually you become angry. And then Krishna says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha. When you become angry, you lose your discrimination, you become delusioned. Moha, sammoha, completely delusioned. And Smriti Vibrama, when you become delusioned, then you lose your good memory, your good intelligence. Buddhi Nashat, you lose your intelligence. Pranashyati, and you fall down into the material world. That's basically the trajectory of most people in the world. They meditate on material things, number one. They get attached to those material things, number two. They develop lust for those material things, number three. Then they become angry as a result of that lust, number four. Then they become delusioned, number five. Then they lose their good memory, number six. Then they lose their intelligence, number seven. And then eventually, as a result of all of that, we get lost in drowning in this material world. So our basic problem is that we're distracted and we're focusing on material things, and therefore it's very difficult for the love for Krishna, the natural attraction to awaken. Therefore we have to transfer that dhyan to Krishna. If you focus on material things, you become attached to material things. But if you focus on Krishna, you become attached to Krishna. That attachment to Krishna doesn't lead to lust, but that attachment to Krishna leads to love. And love, like lust, leads to anger, but love leads to satisfaction. And anger makes you completely deluded, whereas satisfaction makes you completely aware, sentient, conscious, clear about everything in life. And when you become deluded, you lose your memory and you lose your intelligence. But when you become illuminated by the love for Krishna, then you regain all of your memory, you regain all of your intelligence. And just as the material trajectory causes you to fall in the material pool, the spiritual trajectory causes you to re-enter eternity with Krishna. So basically you take the psychology that Krishna has given in the Gita of how you fall down and you flip it. And if you begin by instead focusing on material things, you learn to focus on Krishna and fix your mind on Krishna, then you go on an upward trajectory. But the problem is that we don't. We're deviated by distraction, and therefore that attraction for Krishna doesn't come about. The third reason why the attraction for Krishna doesn't come about is because we're unaware of the glories. You know, sometimes you may hear about the beauty of someone, and you may even see the beauty of someone, but what will capture your mind more about that personality is when you hear about them, when you hear about their qualities, when you hear about the amazing things that they've done, when you hear about how beautiful their character is. So therefore, for example, how many of us in the room met Srila Prabhupada? I don't know if is there anyone in this room who met Prabhupada face to face? None of us. Oh, okay, yeah, apart from the deity form, of course, this is Prabhupada here. But Prabhupada in his manifest form here, none of us. But because we heard about Srila Prabhupada, because we heard about what he did, his story, his qualities, his love, therefore we developed an attraction for him. So in the same way, because we're unaware of Krishna's glories, the love for Krishna, the natural attraction for Krishna doesn't awaken. Therefore Rukmini, she had never met Krishna. But what happened is in the palace, people would constantly come and talk about Krishna. Krishna is this, Krishna does this, Krishna looks like this, Krishna. And she became so attracted just by hearing about Krishna that in the end she had to send a love letter, the first ever love letter. And she said, Krishna, kidnap me. So indeed Krishna came and he kidnapped Rukmini. But how did it all begin? Because Rukmini heard about Krishna. So for most of us, it's not just about seeing Krishna. We may see Krishna, but right now we can't see Krishna because our eyes are blinded by the darkness of ignorance. And therefore, even when we see this beautiful form of Krishna, the attraction doesn't awaken because we're seeing but we're not seeing. Pasyanapi na pashyati. The Bhagavatam says we're seeing but we're not seeing. Therefore, the Bhagavatam says, don't try and see through your eyes, see through your ears. Shruta ekshita, this is known as. Ekshita means to see, Shruta means to hear. Try to see Krishna through the process of hearing. And therefore, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was once giving a class, and someone came in, he came to the deities, he took darshan, and then he walked and he was heading towards the door. And just before he left, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur shouted at him. He said, how was your eye massage? He said, eye massage? Take darshan. This is... Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, this is simply eye massage. Very heavy. He said, you cannot see Krishna. Yes, you can come in front of Krishna but actually you can't see Krishna. Because Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, only one who has eyes of love, that person can see. But right now we don't have love. Therefore Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said is simply an eye massage. Still is good. But what you really need to do, he told the person, is sit down and listen. Hear about Krishna. Because when you hear about Krishna, then through the process of hearing, the sight becomes purified and able to perceive Krishna's glories. So the third reason Krishna's beauty is because we're unaware of his glories. We need to hear more. And the fourth and final reason I came up with, why even though Krishna is so beautiful, we're not attracted, is because we're lacking in reciprocation. We perceive Krishna's beauty when Krishna begins to interact with us in our lives. But Krishna won't interact with you unless you open up a reciprocation with him. Like once there was a group of devotees and they were having a debate. Sometimes this happens. So the debate was, which are the most beautiful deities in ISKCON? It's a highly controversial debate. So someone said, oh, clearly Radhalandanishvara. Prabhupada said. I said, no, Radha Shyam Sundar in Vrindavan, very beautiful, the source of all deities. No, Radha Parishishvara. Prabhupada said he is just like a French boy. And she is just like a French girl. Radharani. So like this, they were all having a debate. Everyone had their perspective. And then one devotee stood up and he said, you're all wrong. And he was like convinced. He said, wow, you sound very convinced of your answer. But what's your answer then? He said the most beautiful deities in ISKCON are the deities that you serve with your heart. Those are the most beautiful deities. Because Krishna reveals his beauty to you. You can't see Krishna's beauty. But if you engage your heart in serving Krishna, then Krishna, he has to open his heart. Like Krishna says, as they surrender with whatever desire, I reward them accordingly. If you really want to confuse Krishna, then surrender to Krishna with no desire. Then Krishna doesn't know what to do. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki. Krishna says, with whatever desire you come to me, I reward you. But then when a devotee comes to Krishna and has no desire, then Krishna gets confused. Like, but I said I'll give something to you, but you don't have any desire. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what can I give you? No desire, no. No, but I have to give you. And then when Krishna gets so confused that he doesn't know what to give the devotee who surrenders with no desire, what does Krishna have to give? Himself. I don't know, I have nothing to give you because you never came with any desire. Take me. That's bhakti. That's love. And so, because we're lacking in interaction with Krishna, the more you serve Krishna, the more you make a sacrifice, the more you show Krishna that it's not just all talk, but it reflects in how you live. Then Krishna naturally will show more of his beauty. And so these were my reflections on why Krishna is so beautiful, but still we're not perceiving his beauty. Number one, we're covered by Maya. Number two, we're deviated by distractions. Number 3, we're unaware of His glories. And number 4, we're lacking in interaction and reciprocation. So if we correct these equations, then this beauty of Krishna is available for all of us. Prabhupada said, I brought Krishna. Now just take him. Take him. So Krishna is very beautiful. Once Prabhupada was having this debate with people from Mensa. You know Mensa? This is like these IQ people. So they were coming out with all kinds of arguments, like, you know, debating with Prabhupada. They came up with the problem of rocks. You know that one? They were debating with Srila Prabhupada and they said, you know, these are like intellectual people. They said, can God create a rock that's so heavy that he can't lift it? What do you think? Can God create a rock so heavy that he can't lift it? What do you think? Yes or no? Yes. But then there's something God can't lift. So God can lift everything? God can lift everything. So then that means he can't create something he can't lift. So that means there's something he can't create. So they were asking Prabhupada, can God create a rock so heavy that he can't lift it? If you say yes, if you say no, there's something God can't do. And Prabhupada looked at him and he said, yes, he can create a rock so heavy that he can't lift it. And then he'll lift it. I was like, so they were thinking, my God, like we never heard anyone give this answer, you know. So Prabhupada said, yes, God's glory is ever increasing. So at one moment, he can create something so heavy he can't lift it. But his glory then expands. And then there's something, then he can lift it. And then probably he'll create something else. And then he can lift that. Like this is ever expanding. So that was the end of that argument. So like this, they were arguing with Krishna, with Prabhupada about, you know, Krishna. And then later on, after the conversation, Prabhupada looks at the devotee and he said, so many arguments, so much philosophy. Krishna is so nice. Why don't they just take him? That was very nice. Krishna is so nice. Just take him. So ultimately, we have all of this philosophy, we have all of these things that we do. Ultimately, we're just trying to fall in love with Krishna's beauty. That ends all the arguments. That ends all the struggle. That ends all of the complexity of material life. The moment you become attracted to Krishna, everything is solved. Everything is solved. But we're not attracted to Krishna. So therefore we have to correct these equations. And then when we hear these descriptions again, we'll be, oh no, Krishna is amazing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much. Before I ask for questions, can anyone think of any other reasons why we're not attracted to Krishna, even though Krishna is so beautiful, apart from maybe what I've done? I will use your answers in my next talk. Always use this as an opportunity to get more feedback from you. Why is it that Krishna is so beautiful, but we're not attracted? Like we see a picture of Krishna, it's like, yeah, it's nice, look, Krishna is nice. But that level of attraction is not coming according to how the glories of Krishna's beauty. Why is it? Yeah, Chetan.
Hare Krishna. I remember Krishna says, Isham tava antagatam papam jananam punya karmana. So unless we don't become purified or we are not taking up the path, I think
So we're not purified in consciousness. So I guess that's related to the first one. We're covered by Maya still. Like, yeah, thank you. Yes, Prabhu at the back. I will credit you for your answers in my next.
Thank you.
I'm eagerly waiting for more
Maybe
points.
because he's not material. Krishna is not material, and mostly we are very attracted to material things.
But if Krishna is all attractive, and spiritual energy is way more beautiful and captivating and enchanting than the material energy, and we're essentially spiritual beings, still the question is there. I'm just saying, yeah. Thank you. Why are we not attracted to Krishna? Yes, I'm looking for more points.
I feel that because of love and because we are very personal with Krishna. Because if I give you my example, since childhood I'm watching Little Krishna on TV, and my mother used to tell me stories of Krishna, take me to the temple. So since childhood I'm very I feel that Krishna is my best friend. He listens to me, he talks to me, and he's just my personal buddy and that I can share my feelings and everything with. So he's like my best friend, but that's why maybe I'm very personal and in love with Krishna.
So you're saying because you heard about Krishna, you're
Yeah,
aware of
every
his,
time.
yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you. I want to know why I'm not attracted though. You're attracted, you're very fortunate. What am I doing wrong? Why don't I have that attraction for Krishna? Yes.
Personally, I feel lost in the spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Because there are so many schools and there's so many names given to God that though the teachings might be very similar, but at times we just get so lost in where to go, how to really meditate, not finding the right guidance of how to really connect with.
Okay, so we don't know the process, we're not clear on what steps I should take because there's so much out there that sometimes it can become confusing. So the process is not clear to us of how to awaken that purity. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah. I'm noting these. Okay, wow, we got a lot of reasons why we're not attracted. Yeah, please.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the lecture, first of all. And my thought was that, well, maybe that's personal, but I don't trust Krishna enough. There's a lack of trust, and that refers probably to the lack of knowledge. I think, well, Krishna also, he has disappointed his devotees in some. He makes them so unhappy in Vrindavan sometimes that they suffer so much. I mean, that's the philosophical part. And then I think, would I like to be in their place right now, like crying all the time? Is that happiness really? And then also in a material way, sometimes I'm kind of discussing with Krishna, trying to make deals, and I'm not completely trusting that I give my full heart. I reserve something, like what if it's all not true, kind of thing. Yeah. And also,
sorry.
And the second point, and that's probably the basis why this is so, that I'm still very self-centered in my life. The center of my life is me and mine, and how I'm gonna get organized, everything, how I'm gonna take care of my children and do my job in a good way and all that. And so I'm thinking a lot of me and myself.
That's a really important point, isn't it? Yeah, like it's not just that we don't have love for Krishna, and it's not just that we're not really attracted heart and mind to Krishna. We don't really have love for anyone. Like there's this story that once this newly married Mataji, she came to Prabhupada in the room, and so Prabhupada looked at her husband, and husband was there as well. So he looked at her and she said, "Who do you love more, Krishna or your husband?" And her husband was right there. And she was just married also. So Prabhupada said, "Who do you love more, Krishna or your husband?" So she thought for some time. And then she began crying. And she said, Prabhupada, I don't love any of them. I don't love Krishna, neither I love him. I don't love anyone. And maybe the reason we don't love anyone is because we're still self-centered. Like a magnet can attract, or a magnet can repel. So when our consciousness is like that, when we're self-centered, then people will be repelled. No one will really want to come close to someone who's self-centered. But when someone is selfless, everyone is attractive. A magnet can be both ways, no? So it seems as though this self-centeredness that we constantly blocks us from experiencing any kind of love for anyone. Yeah, nice point, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a good
Probably
one. I'll
the
use
first
that one.
step is to be honest about that and then move on from there.
Yeah.
If we can't see Krishna actually, we didn't see him, and
Yeah, we can't see Krishna.
If you, as you said, Maharaj, when pretty women pass away, then our consciousness can be attractive. But Krishna is a person. Personally, we didn't see him.
But he's here in his deity form.
Yeah, but
It's interesting, you know, Govindaji in Vrindavan, they say that deities are like a form of Krishna that Krishna has accepted. But you know what they say in Vrindavan? That Govindaji is different. Govindaji is not Krishna who has taken a deity form. It's actually Krishna. That's what they say actually. I can't remember exactly how they explain it, but they say this is not like, it's not that this is like a deity first. This is Krishna first. So these deities are actually Krishna, right? Prabhupada was interacting with them. So in one sense you can say we are seeing Krishna, but still that attraction is not coming. So, but of course it's consciousness. And, yeah.
So we are not attracted because we don't want to.
We don't want to be attracted.
We want to be self-centered. And
Yeah.
Krishna accepted. We have our independence, and Krishna doesn't interfere with our independence. He said, okay, you don't want to be attracted to me, I accept this. I don't.
But why
force
don't
you
we
to
change
love
our free will? Krishna is the most attractive. Why would you not be attracted to Krishna? Why wouldn't we use our free will to just say like, of course, it's the most obvious thing. I should just give my heart to Krishna.
but
Yeah,
then we
that's
cannot.
our nature. We can
Our
also be
nature,
in-
so covered by Maya.
And also we have the
We have the
ability to
chance.
choose.
We have the chance, the choice. Yeah, yeah.
Krishna, I think the first reason you gave
Is the most important. Yeah.
Yes, because when we look like Brahma or Indra, they are both devotees, and like us, they are maybe mixed devotees or something. So then the attraction becomes also more towards material considerations, and because we also have to live in, like, not in the spiritual world, but in the material world, and therefore this energy is so strong, and ultimately it's also from Krishna, and he likes to like keep us at this place we are at. So I don't know.
Yeah, this the covering potency of Maya. Yeah.
I think this is
The main
point,
thing, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, Shastra says that. Maya mugdha jivara nahi swata Krishna gyan. Confused and bewildered and baffled by Maya. The living entity has no idea of who they are and where they belong. Yeah, we become covered. Someone here? Someone who hasn't said? Yes.
One reason could be that we are not mindful. So even if we are doing service, like we know the philosophy, but still it's not a service from heart because we are not consciously, actively.
That's like deviated by distraction,
Yeah,
I said,
exactly.
like that one. Yeah, we're not present in what we're doing, we're not giving. If you don't give attention, there will be no attraction. You can chant Bahu Janma Kare Jadi Shravana Kirtan Tabutan Apaye Krishna Pade Prema Dhan. Shastra says you can chant for lifetimes and still not attain love for Krishna if you're overcome by inattention. So we have to be so present in what we're doing, otherwise we could do it for years. Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mahmoud, you haven't said something.
I wanted to say the same like Kunja Bihari, and I think because if we decide for Krishna, then we cannot anymore enjoy independently, and I think this is covered with your first point with Maya.
Yeah, we're scared of giving up enjoyment. Yeah, we're not ready to say goodbye. Therefore, we want the best of both worlds. But then Krishna says you can't hold on to material things, and at the same time, if you're holding on to it, then I can't fully give you the wealth of love. So you have to let go. So hard to let go. One for Krishna, one for me. Two for Krishna. Oh, one for me at least. Something. So then we hold they say whatever you hold back, Krishna is not seeing how much you give, but he's seeing how much you hold back. No, Krishna, so much for you. Okay, that's fine. Well, I want to know what's behind that. Yes. Holding back. To become attracted to Krishna solves all the problems. No more doubts, no more confusion. Happy. So hard. Okay, anyone want to ask any questions, or if you want to add more points? Okay. I think here. Thank you for your points, by the way. That helped me.
Well, when you asked the question, I thought to myself as a point that it's...
Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Shikonitai ki.
That it's just so easy to, like, at least for me, to forget Krishna. But then a thought came to my mind is like, it's so easy to forget him, so basically I was never attracted to him. And that at the same time, I cannot say that I was never attracted to him. I shed many tears when I was looking at daisies, listening about the pastimes. So I cannot, I don't know, I'm just confused with these like emotions that I really feel so much attraction in certain moments, but then it's so just easy to forget.
Yeah, we have some remembrance of Krishna. We have to also, there's some love for Krishna is there. We can't say we don't have any love for Krishna, no attraction. Why would we be here? Why would we have given up so many things? Why would we be trying? But it comes and it goes. A devotee once said to Prabhupada, sometimes I forget Krishna. Prabhupada said, you always forget Krishna. Sometimes you remember him. Sometimes you remember him. Rupa Goswami says in a very beautiful prayer, Yuvatinam yatha yuni yunam cha yuvato yatha mano bhi ramate tadvan mano me ramatam tvai. He says, just as the minds of young girls are naturally attracted towards young boys, and just as the minds of young boys gravitate towards young girls, May my mind be as naturally attracted towards you, Krishna. Imagine it would become so natural like that. That is our aspiration. Okay, I don't know how we're doing for time. Should we like wrap up here, or do we continue on, or like what do we do? Because people have questions, and I don't know. Like, okay, all right, sure. Sorry if we're holding you. I don't want to take too much of your time.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. So I have a question. So you talked about, like the scripture says or describe the beauty of Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share the art of studying and reading the scriptures, especially the Bhagavatam?
The art of studying the scriptures. The reality is that for most people, studying scriptures is a difficult task. Most of us struggle to form the habit of studying scripture, spending time with the scripture every day. So what I tell people is habit. If you want to create the habit, then you have to overcome 5 obstacles. And you can use the acronym HABIT. H stands for hard. One reason why we don't study scripture is because many of us just find it hard. We read it and we're kind of like, my God, like what is this all about? I don't even understand the language. How does this relate to my life? It seems like it's, one time in the Bhagavatam 2nd canto, there's a chapter called Purusha Shukta Explained. So one devotee, he read the chapter 4 times, and then he came to me and said, I've read this chapter 4 times. I still don't know what the Purusha Shukta is, and I don't know what's being explained. It's just sometimes we find scripture so hard, like Mataji was saying, it's so confusing, like so many concepts. So first thing is that you have to study it from teachers. If you really want to develop a taste for scripture, you have to hear from someone who has understood and who is relishing scripture. You see, you have to hear from a rasika. Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. When you hear scripture from someone who's learnt it, who's studied it, who's living it, and who's relishing it, who's realized it, then you develop your attraction to scripture, because they give you an entrance into the scripture that ultimately we by ourselves couldn't see. I started reading Bhagavad Gita when I was 15, and I was reading for 1 year, and then I went to one class at the Hare Krishna temple. And after one class I realized I learned more in 1 hour than I did in 1 year of reading by myself. That's the power of hearing from a teacher. So the first thing, if you want to develop the habit, is scripture sometimes is hard. So then learn from a teacher. A stands for amount. Sometimes the reason why we don't develop the habit of reading scripture is because there's so much, so many books, so many verses, so much. And the amount of it is so overwhelming that we think like, I'm never going to be able to get through this. So the way you overcome that is just by realizing that if you do a certain amount every day, no matter how small it is, you'll be surprised how quickly you can actually get through scriptures. So all of you, this is an advertisement, but you can do it if you want. There's an app on your phone called Become a Sage, page by page. It's a free app. I don't get any commission for this. But it's an app, you can download it. It's called Become a Sage, page by page. And what it tells you is for every book, like if you say Bhagavatam, I want to read it in 2 years, then it tells you how many pages you have to read every day. I think if you read like 35 pages of the Bhagavatam every day, You finish it in like 2 years. Yeah, something like that. And you think like, wow, that's achievable. I could do that. So the second thing you have to overcome is this amount. Oh, it's too much. It's too much. No, it's okay. Just do a little bit. B stands for boring. Because if we're honest, sometimes we read and we're just bored. It's just like, I'd much rather, watch TV. But the reason why we find it boring is because we're not living the knowledge. We're not applying it in our life. We're not actually deeply thinking about it and seeing how it changes things. It's like, for example, imagine I gave you a cookbook, a recipe book. I said, here, Vaibhav, read this recipe book. But you're not allowed to go in the kitchen. Just read it. How long are you going to read a recipe book? 2 teaspoons of this, 1 cup of this, add the water, next page, 1 bowl of this, 2 bowls of this. Like, my God. But when you go in the kitchen and you start making the thing, then it's like, wow, this book comes alive. But will you just read a recipe book? No. That's boring. So we find scripture boring because we don't apply it. We don't live it. We don't think like, okay, I read this verse. What does it mean? Oh, we're reading this verse today. It's teaching me why I'm not attracted to Krishna. Okay, tomorrow I can become more attracted to Krishna if I change these things. Then it becomes alive. Yeah. So you have to overcome this feeling that is boring scripture. I stands for inattentive. We are chronically inattentive. Therefore, what to speak of reading scripture, to do anything in this world is very difficult because our attention span basically lasts 8 seconds. Congratulations, humans are now top of the ranks. Previously it was the goldfish who had only 9-second attention span. But humans have now become more advanced and we can only focus on something, according to scientists, for 8 seconds. We're so inattentive. We're so distracted. And therefore, one must find ways of overcoming their inattention. Because remember what we said today is that if you're not attentive, then attraction will never come about. Because you're kind of doing it, but you're not really doing it because your mind is in 100 places, so you're not really interacting with it. So you have to try to read in a quiet place. You have to try and read at a dedicated time like that. And the final one is T, time. The reason why we don't get attracted to scripture is because we don't give scripture enough time. If you want to develop a relationship with anyone, you have to spend time with them. If you don't spend time with someone, you never. So the more time you spend with scripture, the more you'll develop a deeper relationship with scripture. So that means just as any relationship, like, you have to spend time. Just like tomorrow, if you would meet someone, maybe it will happen. Let's see what Krishna's plan is. But as the relationship is coming together, every day I guarantee you will be messaging. I guarantee you'll spend time talking on the phone. I have personal experience via others. The Brahmacharya ashram, we have one room in the Brahmacharya ashram, which is, we call it Grihastha therapy. So this is where all the people who are having relationship challenges, they come and we just say, oh, relax, it's okay. Stay in the Brahmacharya ashram. It's safe up here. And then they just let their heart out. Oh, and she's there, and she's doing there, and she's there. Tell us. It's giving us conviction in our life. No, but it helps to talk, So yeah, you have spent time, isn't it? So this is it. If you want to develop a relationship with scripture, hard. It's not hard. Hear from someone. But there's so much. No. If you read a little bit every day, you'll get through it. Boring. Live it. Apply it. Inattentive. Create the situation where you give the best attention. And T, I don't have any time. Make time. For any important relationship, you make time. If you do these things, the Bhagavatam will become your best friend, your constant companion.
I like the analogy. I like your analogy with the cookbook, and I was wondering, do I have to really cook every recipe of the cookbook and of all the cookbooks there are, or because sometimes I get attracted by one particular recipe. I'm a passionate cook, so I know what I'm talking about. So I get attracted to one certain recipe and I cook that over and over again, make variations of it, and then try another one, and then maybe take another cookbook and do one recipe of that. How important is it to really dive into a particular recipe, or is it more important to get all the recipes done once? So that's my question.
I think either is fine. The most important thing is that you're perceiving how that recipe book changes your life and brings joy to your heart. And scripture is like that, like it's said that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, then every day he would go to discuss Bhagavatam with Gadada Pandit, and they would only discuss two pastimes. You know which two, right? Prahlad and Dhruva. They would only hear about Prahlad and Dhruva, and they kept. So our Kaviraj Goswami, he says, Shastra is like sandalwood. As you rub it more and more, then the fragrance becomes stronger and stronger. So scripture is unlimited, and even if you seemingly keep cooking the same recipe, it's never the same recipe. Like it said, Srimati Radharani never cooks the same recipe twice for Krishna. So scripture, in the analogy of the cookbook, you're never actually cooking the same recipe twice, because the next time you do that same thing, you're doing it with elevated consciousness, and therefore you're adding something new to the ingredient. You're adding more realization, you're adding some more love. Therefore, even when you seem to be cooking the same recipe, you're never cooking the same recipe, because Shastra is ever fresh, because you're adding new ingredients of elevated consciousness. Rupa Goswami says in a beautiful Padyavali verse, he says, I know all of you are thirsty. I know you're thirsty. So now you have to make a drink. And let me tell you the recipe of this drink. I want you to take the nectar of Srimati Radharani's name, which is incredibly sweet. And then I want you to add it to the condensed milk of Krishna's name, which is thick and very, very rich. And then to that, I want you to add the fragrant ice of the pure love that you have in your heart. And when you add the nectar of Krishna's name to the condensed milk, when you add the nectar of Radharani's name to the condensed milk of Krishna's name, and you add the fragrant ice of pure love, then you have a beautiful drink. Now drink to your heart's content. So there's a recipe you can try out. But there's always more love, and therefore that recipe is never the same, because you always add more to it. Some thoughts? Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. said, Mataji, about how sometimes you have experienced the attraction of Krishna in, like, when you're seeing deities and things like that, but mostly we forget. And in my personal experience, I think we mostly forget when we're in times of like distress or like something is happening to us that we somehow don't, like, something like not necessarily bad, but something is like distressful or hard that's happening, and then we sort of like forget that Krishna, like, maybe having sending this as like a blessing almost, or like our way of viewing something becomes a bit sort of
clouded.
Yeah. So I guess, like, for me, it's easier to see to experience attraction in like when we're immersed in like hearing and like seeing the forms of Krishna. But what is there anything we can do, like, when we don't necessarily have this sort of association of devotees or hearing kirtan or seeing deities, like when we are I guess inflicted by suffering or like distress? How can we see this as like maybe how can we sort of like connect this to an attractive state?
So when we're going through suffering, how do we connect that to Krishna's beauty? How do we use that to become more attracted to Krishna? Even if it helps us become more detached from the world, how does it help us to become more attached to Krishna? Yeah. So, Srila Prabhupada, he said that the cat can hold a rat in its mouth. And when the cat holds a rat in the mouth, then it signifies death. But then sometimes what the cat will do is it will take the kitten in its mouth. And when the cat takes the kitten in the mouth, then it's actually an exhibition of love. Although everything is in the same place, the experience is completely different. So sometimes Srila Prabhupada, he used this crude example. He said it's like a love bite. You understand? Like when a lover, they want to express their love towards the beloved, then sometimes they offer them a love bite. But there's no pain in that. It's an exhibition of love, although externally it looks like some kind of damage or whatever. So eventually, even Bhishma Dev said, when Krishna was shooting his arrows at me, they were like arrows of love. So when the devotee becomes advanced enough, then they realize that even all of these sufferings of the world is another exhibition of Krishna's love. How amazing Krishna is, he's trying to get me out of here. Krishna is working overtime to get me out of here. Krishna knows I don't have any urgency. Krishna knows I have no desire to go back, strong desire. And therefore, look how kind Krishna is. He's making me uncomfortable. He's making me realize that, there's nothing here. Oh, Krishna is so wonderful. Just see how Krishna is ingenious, master plan. So the devotee begins to eventually see Krishna like this, to see everything, even the harsh arrangements of Krishna, as Krishna's loving plan. Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan and he wrote this poem, Vrindavan Bhajan. So he's in Vrindavan all alone. And he says, I'm sitting alone here in Vrindavan Dham and I'm getting so many realizations. He said, Krishna, when he especially favors everything, when he especially favors the devotee, he takes everything away. Srila Prabhupada said, I'm living here in Vrindavan Dham and Krishna has taken away everything from me. My friends, my family. He said, all that is left of my family life is a long list of names. And then Prabhupada says, Krishna has shown me the naked form of the material energy. And then he says, this is misery. And then he writes in the next line, but it gives me a laugh. I sit alone here in Vrindavan Dham and I laugh. Who do I ultimately love in this Maya Samsara? And so it's a very beautiful poem because in the midst of Prabhupada's so-called misery, the miserable situation of life, Prabhupada said, it gives me a laugh. Because now I'm realizing who and what do I love in this world. It's all just so ethereal and transitional. So the devotee, even in the most difficult of situations, there's a joy, there's a wonder, there's an appreciation for how Krishna is crafting something much bigger and better. But that kind of relationship, it takes time. Otherwise, normally we're coming in front of Krishna and we're kind of like, you're smiling, it's okay for you. What about my life? Do you know what's really going on? Yeah, time is, maybe we can speak after. Because I think it's gone on long and then we have another program later on. So thank you all so much. Bhagavan